All right,
Are you ready?
we're ready to go. All right, thanks everybody for joining us. We're here in week 4 of the challenge. We're over the hump of halftime, and we're on the downward slide. This is where it's getting serious for those of you that are getting behind on points. It's time to really plug in if you want to be a winner in the challenge. If you are maybe behind in your weight loss journey, you should probably have a conversation with your health coach or team leader so they can give you some strategies to accelerate your weight loss. Tonight, we're going to be talking about healthy sleep and energy. This is not going to be a seminar that puts you to sleep. This is actually going to help you to gain energy. So positive side of things is that we're going to be talking about some things that are really going to help you to increase your energy, which is also going to help you to increase your weight loss or increase your ability to make good, healthy decisions, to be active and to eat healthy and to make those healthy choices. And we're going to show you some strategies on how you can build some habits into your life to give you the energy that you need. I'm joined here today by the wonderful Donnie Alvarenga. Many of you have heard her as one of our panelists. She's one of our advisory members, so she gives a lot of direction to our challenges. And she's also a nurse, certified health coach, mom, and a really good friend. So welcome, Donnie. Thanks for being here tonight. We've also got the amazing certified health coach and former Olympic bronze medalist, Craig Blanchette. So Craig, thanks for being here with us tonight.
No, I take issue to the former. I still am an Olympic bronze medalist, but just saying.
That's true. All right, typo. I'm going to fire this secretary who puts these presentations together. So
Thanks,
a couple
David.
of contests before we get to in detail on the healthy sleep stuff. Let's talk a little bit more about the team contest. So those of you that have been on these webinars before, maybe you remember that there are some dollars to be had for the team that has the highest participation score based on the number of challengers in their team. So you might want to check in with your coach and find out kind of where you guys stand, and just, more than anything, just encourage everybody to get as many points as you can, because every point is a healthy habit, and we're reinforcing healthy behaviors all throughout the challenge. We also have a new contest up. It's just a simple, if you're happy and you know it contest. So if you take a selfie or you have a picture of yourself just with a big smile on it, you can put yourself out there and get yourself a chance to win some cash and get some likes on that. We also have, every week, we have some pay it forward points, and they're bonus points. They're not required points, but it is an opportunity for you to think about how you could begin to spread health in your friends and your family members. It could just be a smile, could be a random act of kindness, and it could be an opportunity for you to actually invite somebody to get healthier with you. And I don't know in terms of where you're getting your pay it forward points, Craig, but just talk a little bit more about the benefits of really taking it into consideration to make it a habit of paying it forward and helping other people to achieve their goals.
Yeah, thanks, David. If we think about it, health is something we're going to practice, and we're going to be exercising the habits that we're learning for the rest of our lives, if we want the benefit for the rest of our lives. And what I find in my own pursuit of health is the more community I have, the better my results are. So if I try to get healthy by myself, I don't have nearly the results I do if I have a workout buddy. Well, if I have a group of people, it's even better. If I have a group that I go hiking with, or whatever it might be, I do lots of cycling. So I have cycling buddies that I go biking with. And they call me sometimes and invite me. I call them sometimes and invite them. And because I want to make this a lifestyle, not just a temp style, I just created a new word, right? I want to make this a lifestyle. And so to do that, I want to invite people, pay it forward, develop community. I invite people to go biking with me. I invite people to come to the challenge with me. I invite people to do lots of different things that are health related, because I want to build my healthy community. And that's what I think about when I think of pay it forward.
One of the great ways of just starting a conversation with others is talking about recipes. Everybody's interested in a healthy recipe, it seems, these days. So posting up a recipe in the weekly recipe contest will not only get you some likes out there in the social media world, but you may also start up a conversation where other people are sharing your recipes, and you can maybe have a little bit of a fun competition amongst friends, just preparing a healthy recipe. Donnie, talk a little bit more about the additional support resources in the health coaching program for those challengers that are maybe struggling in the challenge to get their weight off or to find their healthy habits? Talk a little bit more about the opportunity they have.
Yeah, every team has a team leader and a coach, and that is a resource person that can absolutely offer some guidance. Sometimes we think we're doing everything right, but we're not seeing the results that we want. And sometimes just by tweaking one little thing, it can shoot through the roof in terms of the results that we're looking to achieve. And so it's something that all of the challengers have access to, is that team leader coach. So why not tap into it?
That's right. And there are some additional program discounts. We have some remaining health coaching scholarships and rebate opportunities for those people that would like to plug into the coaching program before the challenge is over. And you need to take advantage of those before they expire, because there is a limited number of those. So contact your team leader or your health coach to get more details about the health coaching program and the simple meal plans to give you very predictable weight loss, or simple nutrition plans that don't require you to count points, calories, or carbohydrates. So let's get in and talk about our topic tonight, which is sleep and increasing energy. An estimated 50 to 70 million Americans suffer from sleep disorders and deprivation, and only 1/3 of Americans get the recommended 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. And, I've struggled with this healthy habit. I feel a little bit of a hypocrite to lead out on a topic that I'm not doing well in, but I could tell you from previous experiences that most of us need to be reminded more than we need to be taught. And every time I see this presentation on the habits of sleep that comes from our health coaching book, I'm always reminded of some very simple things that I can do to start to get better at it. So I'm going to throw a poll open. And while I have this poll open, I'd like to have Craig talk a little bit more about the importance of sleep as a Olympic athlete. Well, you'd be a former Olympic athlete. You understand the benefits of having the performance energy for a race. Talk a little bit more about how important energy is to you when you're racing, and also when you're just playing the game of life.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, energy is obviously, energy management is sometimes you need to exert yourself a lot. Sometimes you need to conserve some. And for me, energy management is directly related to when I'm replenishing energy. And that happens oftentimes when I'm sleeping. And I remember there was a time back in the late 80s, early 90s, when I was training sometimes twice a day, getting ready for the Olympics or right after the Olympics. And I was training really hard, and I was sleeping 14 hours a day. I mean, it was a lot of sleep. And I just, it was pretty much eat, sleep, and train. And that's kind of the lifestyle of my body was a machine. Now I'm not at that level now. And so I get in about 7.5 hours a night of sleep. I've downloaded the little app on my phone. It's called Sleep Cycle. And it actually tracks the quality of my sleep, when I went to bed, when I woke up, that kind of thing. And I can see a pattern over time about what my average is. And it's pretty fascinating stuff. So Fitbit, there's a number of different things that can track your sleep, but the app I use is called Sleep Cycle. And now I do also know that I just moved. And so I've been having some late nights, but it's not typical. So I think you'll have some exceptions occasionally where you get some less sleep than normal. But on average, if you're getting 7.5 to 8 hours of sleep, I think you're doing pretty good. And then lastly is before a race. 2 nights before the race seems to be the most important night that I get a good sound night's sleep. The night right before the race isn't as critical, and I'm pretty amped up and on energetic, so it's hard to sometimes sleep the night before the race. But I want to make sure 2 nights before the race I get a good night's sleep.
So for peak performance athletes, sleep is very important, but also for everyday people, sleep isn't very important. And it sounds like that most of the people that are on this webinar are struggling on it. They're trying to do better with it, but they're not doing the best they can. And so tonight we're going to share some great tips on how you can begin to start seeing some small improvements. And Dr. Anderson, our medical director and founder of our health coaching program, talks about putting and installing micro habits of health. And Donnie's had a pretty amazing story. She's also a healthcare professional, and she's had a lot of experience in working with others to help them to make healthy habits a regular part of their day. And I'm going to have her share a little bit about her story, and as a mom of 2 twin girls and a busy entrepreneur, how she prioritizes sleep the best she can. Donnie, welcome to our webinar.
Thanks, David. Well, when it comes to my story, I think sleep plays such a huge part just because of the lack thereof. I ran a weight management program for kids as a nurse practitioner. So as you were talking about, I did help people before. And then I delivered these twins and my life got flipped upside down. And I stopped sleeping. I stopped sleeping for about 9 months. Literally, I was up every 2 hours for 9 months. And during that time period, you can see the transformation. That after picture or that before picture was actually the after of having twins and the after of having run a weight management program for kids. And, when I look back on it, after I dove into Dr. A's book, it's interesting because yes, I am a health professional. Yes, I am a nurse practitioner. I went to a lot of school, but it wasn't until I read through Dr. A's book that it finally clicked for me. What a huge role sleep plays in our hunger regulation and our energy regulation. I mean, it seems to make sense. In our immune system, there's so many different benefits to getting the adequate amount of sleep. And in my particular situation, I really believe that sleep played a huge role in my growth.
Well, let's throw out a couple of questions. If you've navigated away from your screen, come back and take a look at these questions that we put up on the screen and see how many of them that you answer the word yes to, okay? So do you wake up tired in the morning? Do you need a nap in the afternoon? Are you looking for that Red Bull or that energy drink in the afternoon? Do you fall asleep watching TV? Have frequent small accidents, little bumps and bruises? Do you drop things? You have trouble focusing on your job? Find yourself sleepy after lunch? Do you feel irritable or depressed most of the time? Feel like you're not getting anything done? Drink alcohol just to get a good night's sleep? You drink several cups of coffee or energy drinks just to stay alert? Do you have difficulty falling asleep? Have difficulty staying asleep? Do any of those resonate with you? Some of you are like nodding your heads going, gosh, these people are reading my mail. Well, there's some reasons behind that. And Donnie, maybe you could share a little bit about some of the challenges that we face in just getting a good night's rest.
Well, everybody's just so stinking busy, right? And I think that you mentioned it earlier. Is it something that we prioritize or not? Oftentimes we get to it at the end of the day when everything else is done and we don't have absolutely anything else to do, or when we just crash. And what happens is that when we don't get enough sleep, our body doesn't get to reset and doesn't get a chance to take care of itself. So as it says there, right there, you've got increased chance for heart problems, increased risk for obesity. And I was that statistic. And so even in kids, you can see this in play.
Yeah, and a lot of people, and I know that women have struggled with this sleepless issue for many times just because of small kids, or just the fact that mom gets woken up, or maybe it's a single parent issue and the mom is doing more than maybe she bargained, or more than she thought she was going to have to do. And so, whether it's male or female, we see a lot of people struggling with this. And the England Warwick School of Medicine found that getting less sleep almost doubled the risk of obesity, even in children as young as 5. So if you've struggled in weight loss inside the challenge, it might not be what you're eating or how much you're exercising, but it could be how much you're sleeping and maybe what's consuming you in terms of your thoughts and your habits. And maybe that's pulling you away from good sleep habits.
What I was going to mention, David, that I have a client that is a physician, and he was on call, and so he was getting up a lot in the middle of the night. And on the weeks that he was on call, he was struggling a lot with hunger, and his weight wasn't budging. And so, as we were talking about before, connecting with a health coach will be great, because oftentimes people don't think, let me think about my sleep. Maybe that's what's holding me back.
And we like to challenge our clients to be able to evaluate their sleep just to get an idea of how their sleep patterns may be affecting them. And so if you contact your health coach or team leader, they can send you the sleep appendix from our health coaching book. This is a simple tool that you just simply track how many hours you're actually getting good sleep. And if you just did this for this next week during the challenge, this would help you to get a good idea of, when am I going to bed? When am I waking up? and then, subtract out the amount of time that you're sitting in bed, but you're not actually sleeping. Donnie, I don't know about you, but a lot of people end up using their device or their handheld phone or tablet right before bed, or they keep it next to their bed as an alarm clock. And oftentimes that can get them, looking at it in the middle of the night, or maybe having that screen time. I know that's not something that I do, but many of my clients have struggled with that. So that was one of the things that I've encouraged. Anything else that you could say on some of these questions that people can start to use as a form of evaluation of their sleep?
Evaluation or recommendations for improvement?
Recommendations for improvement, sorry.
So one of the things that can make a really big difference is actually if people have a TV in the room, getting it out of the room and making sure that the room is meant just for sleeping, that your brain is programmed to sleep in there. Don't work in the room, So a couple of things just for simple habits. Going to bed at the same time consistently, even on the weekends, waking up at the same time consistently. Those things, basically, it's reprogramming our brain. And it's interesting because that's what we're all about, right? Is the resetting or reprogramming of all of our habits. And as we're reprogramming our behaviors, we're actually setting up patterns in our brain to make it easier for us to make healthier choices. And so the more consistent we are with every single routine, the easier everything will be.
And a lot of people may look at this evaluation process and say, I don't have the time for that. I'm too busy. Well, maybe that's the problem. Maybe you're too busy to sit down and actually look at your sleep. So you keep trying to fix a problem that really isn't the problem. You keep focusing in on your willpower and your lack of it, or your lack of exercise, but it may not be your lack of exercise or your lack of willpower that is causing you to not eat healthy or not to exercise. It could be simply that your energy levels are so low that you're not getting the proper amounts of sleep. So therefore you're making unhealthy choices because of your sleep habits. And I know that was a big awakening to me. Talk a little bit more about these different stages of sleep. Sorry, did you have something to say, Craig?
Well, there was some people that were just talking about the, what if your spouse sleeps and I think it really has to come down to we're saying how valuable sleep is. And so you have to decide if you want to try and change that, because it could change things. And you're going to have to organize stuff in your life around to get it to where you want it, and so I was just reading some of the questions and stuff, but I love this different pieces, the details on the stages of sleep. And so go ahead, Donnie.
Yeah, and I don't know if you want to address any of this, Donnie, but in terms of the average person usually needs to go through about 3 cycles of these different stages, and if they don't get into all different stages, they don't get into the REM sleep or the REM sleep, they are short-circuiting their ability to get the proper amount of rest. So if you're constantly waking up because of poor breathing, or maybe you're overweight or something of that nature, and you're not getting good restful sleep because you constantly are waking up, or somebody is waking you up, that is going to maybe stop you from getting the energy that you need to make those healthy choices the next day.
Well, not to mention also that there are hormones that are involved, and in this restoration, there are hormones that get released that tell us to stop eating or that make us more hungry. And so not getting enough sleep, not only does it reduce or lower our resistance to saying no, but, it makes us want to eat other things that we shouldn't be eating because the hormones are playing tricks on our body.
I know that a lot of people have wearable devices that actually have the ability to track sleep efficiencies. And so if you have a Fitbit or some other wearable device, you might want to look into, how you're doing in the sleep category just by reading off some of the reports that your wearable device gives you. And so in terms of sleep, it's so important to not only get it, but to understand it. And we have in our health coaching program, we have a curriculum that talks about the idea of how to improve your sleep. And I'm going to ask Craig to talk a little bit more about some of the things that he's been able to implement and how he's coached some other people on how to deal with some of the challenges that they have. I know that sleep deprivation is
That's what I look like.
That's what you look like?
That's what I look like when I don't get enough sleep. So you can tell the head. You can see that's me. All right.
Well, they've said that sleep deprivation is actually a form of psychological torture, and it's worse than going without food and water because it erodes the emotions and the self-confidence, and it results in erratic behavior. And so that means, decreased relationships, intimacy with spouse or kids or children or friendships, or maybe outbursts at coworkers. And it may not be just your, poor ability to communicate. It may be something totally different than communication ability. It may be the fact that you're just irritable because you're not getting good sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you want to say anything about the effects of sleep deprivation, but this is important for most people.
I've got two examples. When we had our first child, as 23 years ago, I remember that first 3 months he was up regularly, and you're trying to figure out how to be a good spouse. And so when she wakes up to feed the baby, I wake up and just I'm there with her, right? That didn't happen on the second child. It turned out it was much more beneficial for one of us to be sane and not both of us insane. But I remember how we would get 5 hours of sleep, sometimes 4, but over a 3-month period, we became different human beings. Like, I couldn't believe what a zombie I felt like. It was unique to anything I've ever experienced in life. And so it can, even just getting not quite enough over a period of time can really make a difference.
That's right. Causes of sleep deprivation, number one, excess weight, number one cause. And you may say, well, okay, so I can't sleep and I'm overweight. How do I get better sleep if I'm overweight? Well, there's some strategies that we have that we can end up improving your weight in a very predictable manner without too many major changes in your life. If you can eat every 2 to 3 hours, we have a nutrition plan that we can provide to you as an option that can help you to decrease your weight in a very predictable manner. And we can give you additional sleep recommendations that can improve your sleep habits. Let me go back to that in terms of common disruptions, because some of these things are not something that we can necessarily control for ourselves. They may be outside environment issues that we may need to deal with. And maybe you want to address that, Craig?
Well, I've never had restless leg syndrome. For those of you that know me, it's a joke. But yeah, I'll be here all night. The funny thing, we drink a lot of water on this program, and so a lot of people say that they actually will be waking up in the middle of the night. And so what I've done is have a bottle of water next to my bed. When I first wake up in the morning, I drink 8 ounces. So I'm like 8 ounces, and I'm not even out of bed in the morning. Try to get all my water in by 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening. And that way, you'll go to bed, go to the bathroom once or twice before you go to bed. And that will help limit your middle of the night bathroom breaks. So there's some strategies. The way all these things work, if we figure out, if you consider where you're at is not where you want to be, and then we're giving you some options of what it can look like for it to be better. And then you fill in those steps between where you are and where you want to be, and working with your health coach or your challenge coach. You can work with them while you're in the challenge. And then if you have a health coach outside the challenge, you can work on these things over time so that maybe it's not better in a week, but what if it got better in 3 months and it stayed better forever, right? This is the kinds of things we're talking about, is going from where you are to where you want to be and what that looks like.
Yeah. Donnie, you want to come in and just talk a little bit more about some real practical things that people can do to improve their healthy sleep?
Well, one of the things, like Craig just finished talking about, is drinking earlier in the day, of course. Planning for it, just planning that I'm going to get to bed at a certain time. These are things that we don't plan for. We think I want to get 8 hours of sleep, but we don't put it in our calendar. Okay, this is the end of my day. And then also starting like a wind down routine. So maybe drinking a cup of tea, right? So that, and turning off the TV, not having blue light going into your eyes, because that lets your brain think that it's daytime. So turning off electronics at least an hour and a half before going to bed. Not doing really, really, really heavy exercise right before going to bed. So, but planning for it and saying this is going to be a priority for me, and I'm going to get my 7 to 8 hours of sleep, and putting it into the calendar. That's where I would start.
That's right. And Craig, we've got, some simple routine type of things that people can do during the day and in the evening. You want to run through a couple of them that you like?
Yeah, sure. I'd love to. For me, if I'm going to have coffee, it's before noon. If I drink coffee afternoon, it does affect my sleep. I may not be wired up, but it affects my sleep. I know when I'm eating clean or I'm eating in a way that really supports my goals, I sleep better. Having naps, Dr. A talks about taking a long nap in the middle of the day is not a good idea. A 5 minute, short little power nap is different than a long nap. And sometimes people, I hear about people that watch TV or will play video games before bed, and they're maybe an action-packed video game, so they're really into it, and their brain is just going crazy. And so those are some things you might kind of consider limiting. I guess the key to it is that I think we can probably figure out what's keeping us from sleeping well, but there's a value to the thing. And so we have to figure out, is sleeping better a greater value than the thing that's keeping me from sleeping? And what I would say is, what if you took and did a little study for 1 month, and you just changed some of those things, not for the rest of your life, but just try for a month or maybe even just a week. And what if these things got better and you learned that you could actually live without those things, or with modifying those things, and now you got the better sleep and you get the benefit of both sides. So that's what I would consider is, try it. What if things change that you didn't even anticipate changing? And for me, I'm so personable, and I love, once I'm up and going, I love to stay up and going. And for me, I just have a hard time saying goodbye to the day. That's my biggest challenge. And so sometimes I say, it's okay, there's a new day tomorrow. And the sooner I go to bed, the sooner I get to say hello to that day. And for me, psychologically, it sounds cheesy, but psychologically, that really does it for me. And so I don't know if that helps you guys or not, but that's
Yeah, no, those are great. Those are great insights. And I think what you're getting at, but I think that I'd like to just reiterate for the people that are watching this webinar live or recording is, if you don't have somebody on the outside bringing back your priorities or bringing back kind of a mirror to reflect what you value, sometimes it's hard to be able to see that on your own because you're just going and you're hustling through the day. Sometimes you need that other person to kind of hold out those goals and dreams and values and priorities in front of you and say, isn't this what you said you wanted? And now it's about time to make sacrifices to accomplish it. And sacrificing it may be watching a show tomorrow, or putting something down on paper and pushing it into tomorrow. It may be taking better care of yourself. And I know that a lot of you moms, you're people that are parents, are saying, what are you talking about? Take care of myself. I got to take care of everybody else. Well, maybe there's something that you can do, and focusing in on what you can do, like preparing your bedroom, doing a little 10-minute tidy, running a hot bath, and doing something that is going to be maybe encouraging to you versus watching a television show that's going to give you, some sort of thought process that's not going to be encouraging or restful to you. So some of these things are just ideas. It's like a buffet of healthy habit ideas, and it's about you to take those habits and put them into an action plan and put some accountability behind them, share them with your challenge coach. If you have not had a chance to schedule a health coaching session, talk to the health coach that invited you or that's running your team or involved in your team. If you don't know who the health coach is, reach out to your team leader and ask, who's my coach? I'd love to hear more about some of the strategies and tactics that people are using to accelerate their progress using a personal health coach. And then challenge yourself to track your sleep habits or try a new habit, just one thing a day that's different than what you've done for the first 3 weeks of the challenge. And I'm confident that you'll see a outcome that is going to be pleasurable to you. It may not be huge. You may not feel like this big burst of energy, but you may feel progress. And if you start to see progress, you start to get more motivated. So try some of these strategies, see where it can maybe help you to improve your health. And next week at this time, 7:30 Central Time, 5:30 Pacific, 8:30 Eastern, we're going to be doing a special event. We're going to bring in New York Times bestselling author Dr. Wayne Anderson. He's going to be talking about the topic of the week, which is healthy support made simple. And he's going to be giving some very simple steps on how to improve your support system, steps to accelerate your progress, And then for those of you that are looking around you going, I don't have a lot of healthy people around me, or I want to help more people to get healthy, he's going to share some practical strategies and tips and opportunities on how you can do that. He's also going to give a copy of his 3 steps to achieve optimal health ebook for anybody that attends live. So make sure that you're here next week for the special 1-hour Huddle Up webinar. And we look forward to seeing everybody here next week. Thanks, Craig. Thanks, Donnie. And thanks to all the challengers for joining me. We'll see you guys here next week. Have a great week.